and good afternoon to you East Coasters. Hopefully you guys should be able to see my screen. If somebody could just acknowledge that, I'd appreciate it. Hey, good morning, Hans. In Europe, huh? So must be nighttime there. All right, thanks guys. Appreciate it. And just a moment here while just getting my question box ready so I can makes it a little easier for me to read. All right, well, I just want to give you guys a quick update, or Jeremy wanted me to give you guys a quick update on the divergence. So unfortunately Jeremy got pulled off of that this week, so it's been delayed by a week, but he does have a long list of you guys wanting to beta test it, so that should be coming here shortly. So let's see, that's really kind of it on the news front. So today I'm planning on continuing our series on the new nodes. All right, so last week, let me pull up the Bloodhound interface here. So last week finished up on the function nodes, and today I want to demo for you guys the new programmer or programming logic nodes, the if-then and the relational. And then next week I'll do the truth table, and hopefully you guys can, I like to kind of do a question and answer session for you guys. So if you guys got any questions you'd like to submit, please do, and I'll cover them next week, next workshop. So and then I'll also try and come up with, just I guess some real examples of using these various function nodes, things like that. So all right, so let me kind of explain what I have on my chart. So this upper instance of Bloodhound is looking at the comparison. It's using the comparison solver. So it's comparing the white line to the red line. Right, they're just two different SMAs. All right, so you can see when the white line's above, we have a long, and when the white line is down below, we have a short output. And so I have the if-then logic node here, and essentially what it is I modified the name here to help explain it. So we have if signal then. So if a signal comes in to the if node, then the then node is what's outputted. So anything coming in to the then node is just basically just piped straight to the output. If there is no signal, the else node is piped to the output. So you always have one or the other. So it's either the then node is going to the output, or the else node is going to the output. And basically what determines that is then means you have a signal coming in. If there is no signal, right, and your signal threshold is defined by this value here, right, so any value greater than 0.8 is what's considered a signal. And so if your value is less than 0.8, the else node is piped to the output. So right now, right, this logic node, which is looking at the SMA 14, which is the white line, and the 50, which is the red line, It's just doing a comparison, as I explained earlier. So that's what's controlling this logic node. And so up above, I just have this solver just plugged into the result node so we can see what's coming in. And then, so what's going into the then node is this signal tester set to, let's see, well, I have it on the name here. It's set to 4 and 4, right, which is this upper indicator. So this is what's going into the then. And the else node, I have the 13 and 17, which is this lower one here, is going into the else. Okay, so we can see long here, the majority of the chart. The long signal isn't it. So we have a long signal. So think of that essentially as true. So we have a true condition for the long signal. And you can see, and then down here, the lower instance, we're looking at the result of the if-then node. So down here we can see, if we look at the long conditions, we can see they match up with the signal test generator of 4, that's spaced every 4 bars. But it's not, but the shorts are not. So we're only getting long conditions. We're not getting, the shorts are not matching the upper test signal generator. And that's because we can see there are no short signals, so that would be considered false. And so, the shorts here, these shorts that are widely spaced out, are matching what's coming into the else node. Right? So we can see these shorts here are matching this short, right, and this short, and this short. So the signals coming from this indicator are going into the then, and this indicator is going into the else. So since there are no short signals here going into the if node, we're looking at what's being plugged into the else node. And so these shorts are what's coming from the else node. So in here, let me slide this forward a little bit. There we go. So the if-then node is basically splitting up the signals that are coming into it. All right, so it's taking the long signals from the then node and piping it to the output. And since the short confidence value is false in a way, or there is no short confidence value, it's taking the shorts that are being connected into the else node and piping it to the output. Now if I just slide the chart forward a little bit, so now we can see the shorts here are coming from the upper indicator, or the then node. So now that the shorts are true down here, or we have a signal from the shorts, it's taking the shorts from this solver, or the then node, and then it's taken the longs being, consider them as being false or no signal. So the longs are now coming from this solver, or on the chart, this indicator here. So it's functioning, if you know anything about programming, it's functioning exactly like an if-then statement in programming. So, all right, I see there's a couple of questions here. Let's see, Randy. doesn't the SMA 1450 compare solver always give an output? Yes, it does, Randy. So we would always have a then output. Yes, we do, right. So so sometimes so that's the difference between, so these longs here are coming from the then node, and then these shorts are coming from the then node. So, all right. So Randy was just kind of asking his question early there. Okay. All right. So yeah. So I answered Randy's question. So let me read your other comment there, Randy. All right. So yeah. So Randy, I think I answered both of your questions there. Okay. All right. Good. All right. Next, I'll move on to the relational node. And this guy's pretty simple. Let me just kind of connect things up here a little bit. So, and you'll notice I have the pan. I can pan around, and that's the middle button. So if your mouse has a middle button, which usually is when you press down on the scroll wheel, is usually your middle button by pressing on the scroll wheel, then that puts you in pan mode. So the scroll wheel, right, zooms you in and out, and then pressing on the scroll wheel, if your mouse has that function, puts you in pan mode. So. All right, so I've got the, here, let me set this back up. Just kind of playing around with it for a little bit. All right, now I need to set up the upper instance of Bloodhound. And yeah, let me take a look. Yeah. So what I've got two solvers here, and they're both just the slope solver. So one of them is looking at the SMA 14, and I have it set to a maximum slope of 2 ticks. And that's so I can get, you know, a varying output here, right? I'm looking to get an analog output to help explain the relational node. And, oh, wrong one. This guy, here we go. So let me plug in the 50. All right, so you can see when the red line is sloping up, right, we have long conditions, and you can see how the output varies according to the slope of the moving average. So that's what we're comparing is the slopes of these moving averages. So let me plug the 14 back in there. All right, so we can see as the 14 sloping up and then curves back down. So we have a little flat spot here. And then we're sloping back down, and we can see how the output is varying. So what the relational node is doing, as you can see, it has all of these comparison types. And essentially this node is just, it's either true or false. Right? It's true or false based on the comparison that it's doing. So at first glance, it kind of sounds a little similar to the comparison solver. So in a way, it's the comparison solver, right, is always checking to see, right, it's always comparing A to B based on your large and small amounts. And so you can create, right, a varying output based on the amounts that you want to compare with. And so this is just kind of a simpler version of that, but it has more comparisons that you can do. Right. So let me show you all the different comparisons. Right. So you have greater than, right, less than, equal, greater or equal, less than or equal, and then not equal. So the exclamation with the equal is not equal. And then you have some subtraction functions, right? A minus B, B minus A, and then the absolute of A minus B. So let's take a look at is A greater than B? So what we're looking at is the slope, right? The slope of A greater than B. So let me plug B in here. And I will need to set, so I'm going to try and set the scale of both of these the same. So you can see I have a fixed scale now. So we can see the green and red line as, right, so these are our threshold values set to 0.8 and set to 0.8. So our scales are fairly close. Let me try and equal them out a little bit. All right. So as we compare this section here, we can see that, all right, so this upper output is the slope solver of the white line, right? And the lower one is the slope solver of the red line. So as we can look at the chart, it definitely appears that the white line has a greater slope to it than the red line. And we can see that from the output here. So we can see the output is nearly at our threshold level. And then down here, the red line doesn't have much slope to it, so it's quite a bit further away. Here, let me slide this forward, and we can take a look at the values. So, right, the red line has a value of confidence value of 0.11. And the white line has a confidence value of 0.464. Right. So now let me plug the relational node in. And so we're just simply looking for when A is greater than B. So let me just kind of step forward here. So we're still looking at the confidence value for A up above here. I'm just going to step through this slowly. Actually, I'll make this a little bigger here. And now, see, it looks like right here that actually it looks like both of these, the values are the same because there's no output. Let's take a look here. And I'll have to step it back a little bit. Let me find which bar that was. All right, right there. Oh, so here we go. So we can see the slope of the white line is 0.14, and the red line, the slower moving average, is 0.22. So the condition is no longer true, and so we can see there's no output from the solver. Take a look at the solver. So if it's false, our output is basically going to be 0. So we can see our condition's false here. And we can see several bars back here that we have a false condition as well. Now let me step forward. So now you can see that, so here you can see that the slope started to point down. So now we have a short output from the slope solver of the white line, and let me plug the red line back into the result node. So the red line still has a positive slope to it, right? And remember, so we're comparing this short output to the short output of this other solver, and there is no short output of the other solver, so it's 0. So we're comparing a value of 0.07 to 0, and then 0.07 is greater than 0. So therefore, we have a true condition, right? And so we have a short output. So you probably kind of caught on to seeing that the output of the relational node is based on condition A, right? So we're checking to see if A is greater than B. So whatever the output is of A is what's going to be outputted from the solver. So we have a short value coming into A, and so the output is a short down here. Now, of course, we could A could have a long value and a short value coming into it, and it'll be doing, two comparisons. So you could have so this relational value could have a long and a short coming out at the same time. However, I just wanted to keep this kind of simple instead of trying to have to analyze two sets of conditions going on at the same time. So just to keep it simple for this demonstration, the value going into A is the output value that we're going to see from the relational node. Let me just kind of step forward here, and so there's a false condition, and so I can see, okay, so our white line is completely flat. I can see we have a value of 0 coming out, and now let's take a look at the red line. So essentially, what we can determine here is, just a second, let me back up here. I'm going to change something on my chart. So what I want to do is move my bar a little bit closer to the edge of the chart. That way I don't have such a big gap. That's going to help visualize this a little bit. Yeah, so I have a margin of 20. Let's see, knock that down to 5. There we go. All right, so now we can see the bar is right up against the edge of the chart. Okay. A little easier to see. All right, so the value coming into A is 0. So the relational node doesn't have anything to compare to. So just like if we go back here, there's no short confidence going into A, so it's not doing any short comparisons. It's only doing long comparisons. Since it only has a value on the long side, it's doing long comparisons. So if we step forward, so now it has a short confidence value coming in, so it's doing short comparisons. And so, hold on a sec here. There we go. This will make a little more sense. All right, so we have long values coming in to the relational node. And so it's doing long comparisons on the long side. And then as a short comes in, now it's doing short comparisons. And there's no long values to compare, so it's not doing any long values. And as we step forward, there's absolutely no confidence values from A. The short side is 0 and the long side is 0. So so the logic node is not doing any comparisons. So therefore, there's no output. Right? No output. All right, and then we have a little bit of a short value coming in again. All right, so now it's doing a long. So now it's doing a short comparison. All right. Okay, so here's a special kind of condition. So we have a long value coming into A, and we can see there's no output. So we have a false output from the solver. So let's take a look at what's coming into B. So we can see the value of B, which is 0.39, is greater than 0.17, or basically if I round it up, 1/8. So that's a false condition. So A is not greater than B, and so therefore there's no output. And same thing if I step forward, once again, a false condition. So we can see here the slope on the white line is very minimal, but the slope on the red line is still pretty steep. Sorry about that. And so we had two situations where the red line, or B, is actually greater than A, being the white line. And it looks like now, oh yeah, there we go. So the white line started sloping down, and so therefore we got a true condition, because the white line sloping down, giving us a short output, and we can see the red line still sloping up, so there is no short output. So therefore A is greater than B. Let's see. Oh, here's a whole bunch of bars to take a look at for some more examples. Let me plug B in here again. Okay, so the white line has a slope of 0.46, and the red line has a slope of just 0.4. Right, so we can see the white line is just barely greater, has a greater slope than the red line, and so therefore we do have a true condition. But if I step forward one bar, now we have a false condition. And so we can see the slope of the white line pulled back quite a lot. So now it's 0.18 versus 0.39 still. So that's a false condition. So A, 0.18 is less than 0.39. So it's a false condition. Right, so if we take a look, let me exaggerate this for a little bit. So we can see the red line's diving down pretty steep, whereas the white line's kind of flattening out. So that's why we have this, all of these false conditions going on here. Okay, until finally the short period SMA catches up. All right, let's take a look at some of these others. Some of the other comparison nodes, or modes, I'm sorry. Yeah, let's take a look and see if there's any where A equals B. Okay. Okay, so at first glance, probably looks like something's broken. So we have A equals B. You can see we have all of these true conditions on the long side. Let's take a look at Y. So we can see the white line is in a downslope, right? So we have a short output, but also the red line is in a downslope as well. So let's take a look at the red line. Right, so the white line up here, red line down here, we can see they're both in a downslope with a short output. But so let's take a look at the long output. So both 0. So the value for the long side, the long competence, is 0. So 0 does equal 0. So that is a true condition. So that's why we have a true condition on the long side, because 0 on the long side does equal 0 on the long side for both of the slopes of these. And then as soon as the white line turns up and we get a long output, now that's no longer true. They're not equal. And let's, oh, look here, it looks like we got a special case here. Let's take a look at that. So they're both sloping down. Let's point out they're both sloping down. So on the long side, they both have a value of 0 for the slope. So we definitely have a true condition on the long side because there is no, they're both equal to 0. And then it looks like we have an equal condition on the short side. Yep, there we go. So 0.25 on the slope for the white line and 0.25 for the slope on the short line. So they're both equal. And bingo. I actually didn't think I would actually find that condition. Just going to go forward and see if there's another condition like that. No, I didn't think so. Like once in a lifetime. Yeah, that appears to be the only place. Oh, that's pretty cool. Glad that showed up there. All right, let's take a look at some of the others. Let's see, so this just less than or equal, greater than or equal, right? So very similar to the upper two. Not, so this not equal essentially is an inverse of the equal. We'll take a quick look at that. So we'll take a look at this section in here. All right, so the white line is sloping up and the red line is still sloping down. So the white line, right, has a value on the long side only, no short side value. And we can see that the red line does have a short side value. So we have a value of 0 for the short side, and we have some kind of a value, right, for the short side on B. Right, so for A, the shorts are 0, and for B, we do have a value. So therefore, they're not equal, and so not being equal is true, so we have a true condition on the short output. And then if we evaluate the long side, right, we do have a value on the long side for A, but the long side for B is set to 0, right? There's no 0 on the long side, and so those are not equal, and so that would be a true condition as well. So therefore, we do have a true condition on the long side as well. So you can see what that's kind of doing is it's marking. All right, so if we have a long and a short at the same time, it's marking when the slopes of the two moving averages are opposite of each other. Right, so the red line is still sloping up, the white line sloping down, so they're opposite, and we can see that we're getting this marked here. Right. So let me kind of take a moment to kind of stray off to the side, and I'll show you how what we can do is we can strip out if we have an output on just one side, and so that way all we're left with is if we have a long and a short together. And let me see if I let's see, which is it? Yeah, so the long, one way to do it is the long and short modifier. Let me plug that in there. Now right now the default mode is set to swap, but if I set it to product, which is multiply, right, so this is set to multiply, and bingo. So now it only shows, the product of multiplying the two together. So if you have 0 on, so if you have 0 on the short side, or yeah, 0 on the short side times some value on the long side, 0 times anything is 0. So therefore, you get this output of 0. And when you multiply 1 times 1, right, you get an output of 1. So there is a little tip of the day. Right, so what that was doing is we have 0 on the short side times 1 on the long side. 0 times 1 is 0. And the same thing over here. We have 0 on the long side times 1 on the short side. 0 times 1 is 0. So therefore, set it to 0. Okay. So there's a little tip. All right, so there's kind of an example of the not equal. And so here, let's take a look at A minus B. And to help illustrate, let me plug B in down here. So let me mark this right here. So we can see this right here. We have a 1 on the output. Let's just double check that. Yep, so we have a -1 on the short side. All the way until this bar has a -1. Okay, and we can see on B, there's just a slight, ever so slight value, right? 0.12, 0.17. Doesn't seem to get up to 0.2. So we're going to floating around in the teens here. So let me connect the relational node back up. So remember, so A was -1 and B was in the teens, and we can see the output here was, it looks like B was equal to 0.11. Right, so we take 1 minus 0.11, right, we're left with 0.89. So this relational one isn't purely relational. Okay, you can see it actually is doing a math formula here. So the output is 0.9. So I'll just step through these slowly. All right, so we can see 1, then we have 0.88, so the value of B should be 0.12. And yep, there we go. So the value of B was 0.12. And the rest of these are just yep, B minus A. And the absolute value of A minus B. So, all right. I was just going to leave it at those two for today. Just keep it kind of simple. And I will work on doing the truth table. So the truth table is pretty simple in what it does. And let me back up here. So you do have to go in and there's another interface, excuse me. There's another interface here. You can see that builds the truth table. So you can add a row. And as you start plugging, well, I'll save this for later. So, do you guys have any questions? Have I stumped y'all? You're just absorbing it, I hope. So, all right, I don't really see any questions coming in, so we'll just leave today's session as a nice little short one. And so just to recap, next week I will show you a quick example of the truth table, and hopefully some of you guys can submit some questions, hopefully like some kind of conditions where you think the function nodes would come useful. So I kind of would like to kind of demonstrate some real examples using the function nodes. So if you guys are building something, then if you could kind of give me an idea of give me like a hypothetical situation of the condition you're looking to build, right? And I'll come up with something. So I'm not looking to give away your guys' secrets, but if you have a condition that you think would benefit from a function node, then submit your question. You can change your indicator values, and maybe I could substitute a different indicator, so that way I'm not giving away any trade secrets from you guys. And I'd like to try and give some real examples that you guys are trying to build with Bloodhound, and that would be great, helpful for everybody. Let's see. All right, so Randy, good to go at the time. All right, thanks, Randy. And Theo, how to program arrows up and downs. Let's see, what kind of solvers to use. Theo, I'm not sure what you mean, how to program arrows up and down. Not sure what you mean by arrows. So if you're wanting to see like arrows on the chart that some indicators put on there, you'd have to program that into your indicator. So Bloodhound doesn't plot arrows on the chart. You see Bloodhound runs on a subchart, and in order to plot arrows on the price chart, your indicator has to be running on the price chart. So to plot these neat little symbols and stuff that some of the indicators do, you'll notice that all the indicators that have these little dots actually run on the price panel. So if your indicator is running on a sub-panel, you can't draw objects on the price panel. Unfortunately, NinjaTrader removed that feature in version 7. There was an unsupported feature that lets you do it in 6.5, but they decided to eliminate that in 7, and kind of rightly so, because it was an unsupported feature, and it didn't always work. So I had written some indicators that did that. That would draw lines. On the price chart, even though the indicator plotted its value on a subchart, and it didn't always run correctly. Sometimes the lines wouldn't draw on the price chart. So it worked, sometimes didn't. So they removed it. Hopefully, maybe in version 8, they'll bring that feature back. So, because we'd love to be able to, put little symbols on the price chart. That'd be great. We get that request a lot. So. All right, so Theo, looks like you're trying to clarify your question here. So, so you have an indicator with arrows. Oh, okay. Well, Theo, let me kind of point you to a video I made for indicators that for how to determine if Bloodhound can read your indicator. So let's go to, let's see, I'll just go to the documentation here. And then so basically I was just bringing up the website. So if I go to Bloodhound, oops, and under the tips and tricks section, I did a video that looked at, see this, analyze, Internet Explorer is just running a little slow here, so you can see how to analyze custom indicators in Bloodhound. So this will help you. This will help you figure out if your arrows can be used with Bloodhound. And I can tell you directly that arrows can't be used, but there is a slight chance that maybe whoever the author of that indicator might have built in something like a bool series. So let me give you an example here. So I have a custom indicator. No, I don't have it installed. Shoot. I think I did demo that indicator. It's the time series forecast. Forecast. I think it was called time series forecast trend, and I kind of profiled it in this video because that indicator had a bool series, which is a true or false data series. That obviously you can't plot true or false on the chart, but Bloodhound can read that data series, and from there you could use it within the threshold solver to analyze a bool series. So, but if all your indicator has is just little arrows, unfortunately there isn't a way for an indicator to read when a different indicator plots an arrow or a dot or some kind of chart object. Chart objects aren't readable from a separate indicator. So hopefully the author of your indicator kind of built in a hidden signal data that Bloodhound can read. All right, Gary's got a question here, so all right. Gary says, I'm having problems having to go in and reset a Bloodhound template so that it will print signals again after I change time frames on the chart. Are you able to tell me how to make it so that the Bloodhound template will print the signals after I change time frames? Let's see. So Gary, I have a question for you. Are you changing your time frame on the chart here? Like you're picking a different time frame on the chart, so that would be your default time frame according to Bloodhound, right? That would be this time frame. Are you changing this period on the chart, or do you have like a secondary time frame or chart on here that you're switching? So let's see. All right, so Gary, right click data series 2 Ranko to 4 Ranko. So here's the question. So so you can see that when I change the chart type, a secondary one in Bloodhound, you can see I'm going to have to refresh my chart. That's the only way to get NinjaTrader to build the bars for this 2-minute chart. So NinjaTrader has to build this data, and the only way it will build the data is to refresh the chart. I can refresh it, and now NinjaTrader built a 2-minute chart for Bloodhound. So it built this 2-minute chart that we can now work with. If you're just going in here and you should be able to just go in here into data series and change that from a 5 to a 2. And bingo. So that should function just fine. And I can go in here and I can start changing the output there. Like so. Alright, so Gary's saying he's having to do a reset features outline, but okay, let me read that, Gary. Alright, so how I reset the indicator is to go into the logic board, click on a solver, go into the indicator, and click OK. Then the signals start printing again. Gary, I'm not sure. You know, I have done a one-on-one session with another customer who seemed to kind of have, I think, a similar situation. And my suspicion was he had a lot of other third-party indicators on there, and you know, I guess I kind of speculate that one of those other indicators, you know, who knows what they're doing, but I kind of suspect that they might have been interfering with allowing Bloodhound to refresh the chart automatically. So I'm not exactly sure how Jeremy got the charts to update in real time, but I'm sure that it would be easy for another indicator to kind of interfere with that functionality within NinjaTrader. So Gary, we would like to take a look at that. Gary, you know, if you got time, I suggest sending in a help ticket for Jeremy and try and schedule a time with Jeremy to take a look at that. You know, we kind of would like to know what the general cause is for this for some of the people that we've seen. And from what I've seen so far, it seems like it's only when people have a whole bunch of other third-party indicators installed, primarily like you know, DLLs, compiled third-party indicators. So yeah, it's definitely something I wouldn't be able to diagnose during the workshop here. All right, so let me continue through some of these questions. Let's see. Randy says Supertrend uses arrows in the bull series. Supertrend. Let's see if I have Supertrend on here. So I'm using a VMware. So I'm going to be doing my workshops using a VMware. So that way I don't, I'm trying to keep my list of indicators clean, and you know, my list of Bloodhound templates clean. So I don't have quite everything on here yet. I'm slowly adding stuff. So let's see, Supertrend. Oh, strike 2. No, I don't have Supertrend on here either. So I'll make a note I'll put those 2 indicators on here. So thanks, Randy. Richard, yeah, here's a popular indicator. Can it read the dots on the D3? So Richard, once again, a dot, you know, a dot and a line, they're both chart objects, and that's what the D3 is plotting. All right, so the D3 is plotting a line and a dot. So those are chart objects, and right now those are not readable. So I know when we get some of these projects done, Jeremy will be trying to see if he can find a way around that. Let's see. All right. Just scanning through some of these other questions. Okay, so Theo's got, looks like Theo has another question here. How to make Bloodhound automate trades. So far, I follow the signals and take the trades manually. Okay, Theo, let me pull up, click in here. All right, Theo. So Theo, you'll see there's a free complementary strategy that comes with Bloodhound. So if you go into the strategies, you'll see Raven in here. So Raven was built for using Bloodhound. So you can see it has a Bloodhound section here. So you can load up your templates, and after using a logic template, right, for your entries and exits, you can specify those there. And you have some simple trade management. So Raven submits a market order, just so you can do some rudimentary back testing, right? So if just as a general rule, if your system requires a limit order, and it's not able to make a profit submitting a market order, then I can tell you your automated system just isn't going to make money. If it has to submit a limit order to where you think it's going to make money, bottom line is that that system's not going to be making money. It should be able to make money submitting a market order, and then if you switch it over to using limit orders, it may get you an extra tick or two. But if it can't make money just by submitting a market order, then chances are it's not really going to make money. So so just my little tidbit on building automated systems there. So Raven submits market orders. They have some various ways, some various measurements on how to measure on how to set your profit target and stop loss, right, by the ATR or percentage. And so let me get back to bring up the web browser here. So if you go down here to learn the Bloodhound, and so Theo, I would suggest that you kind of start off on this getting started page. And this has links to core kind of essential videos to help you teach you each of the solvers and components of Bloodhound. So if we scroll down, right, so kind of part one is this video tutorials, or the tutorial videos here is part one, and then when you finish with those, part two is the give me more section. So if I click on the give me more, and then you'll see there's a list of, come on, Internet Explorer. This is running really slow. All right. So if I scroll down, you'll see there's videos for each of the solver nodes listed in order, and then down at the bottom, all right, so there's building a system. So this shows Raven. This shows Raven, how to use Raven. And then down here, there's a workshop video that's dedicated to Raven. So Theo, if you take a look at this Raven video, this will show you how to use it, and that'll show you how to automate your trades. Right? So just to keep in mind, Bloodhound here is an indicator, and indicators are not able to place trades. Only a strategy can actually place your trade and manage a trade. Let's see. All right, Randy's giving me some more ideas on. So Randy says, I think that the Anna super trend might plot arrows and stuff. So yeah, I'll get those installed. So Randy, you're saying Bloodhound won't pick up plots directly. So Randy, is that a statement or a question? And I'm not sure what you mean by saying Bloodhound won't pick up. Pick up. And it's not really a programming term. So if you could specify what you mean by pick up plots, because that's actually exactly what Bloodhound is doing. Right, so when you are setting up your indicators within Bloodhound and you're picking which plot to to look at, that's exactly what Bloodhound is doing. Is Bloodhound's being fed the data from the long plot. So and then, so Randy, you're saying nobody else's indicators pick up on plots either. Okay, thanks, Theo. So it looks like I got Theo's question answered. Oh, okay. So when Randy's saying Bloodhound won't pick up plots directly, okay. So Randy, it's really a terminology issue. So these lines on the chart are what Bloodhound calls plots. They're called plots, and that's the name of the subroutine, is a plot routine. So what Randy, so what you mean is a chart object. So technically, or a chart marker. I'm sorry, I'm always calling it a chart object, but that's because in the documentation they're mentioned as objects, but it's a chart marker. So correct. Indicators can't pick up on chart markers. So when you see a line, that is a plot, right? So this bar type, so anything in here is a plot. So, oops. All right. So you can see now I have it set to a block plot. In this, so these plots down here are just bar plots. So these are all plots down here versus a chart marker. Okay, so Gary has I think a question. Zach, in reference to my earlier question, I have it isolated to a third-party moving average. Any suggestions to make it work with third-party indicators? Well, that's going to be helpful. So Gary, if you could mention that, what you suspect it is, to Jeremy, and hopefully Jeremy can get like a trial period to it, so Jeremy can try and figure out what exactly that indicator is doing. So who knows? Maybe that indicator is making some programming calls that Bloodhound's doing, and the two just don't play nicely with each other. So Jeremy's going to have to, analyze the software. How do I put this? Jeremy's going to have to analyze what NinjaTrader is doing, right? So with Visual Studio, you can take a look at all the software code that's kind of running in the background. Not to say that we can't see their code, but you can see variables and methods that are having calls made to. So Jeremy's going to have to take a look at that, try and figure out what that third-party indicators, what kind of programming calls it's making to NinjaTrader. See if you can figure out what that conflict is. So thanks for that, Gary. I appreciate that. Yeah. So Gary's just making a comment on indicators not being able to pick up on indicators or on chart markers. So yeah, who knows? Maybe with version 8, NinjaTrader will make that available. So that would be a neat feature. But at the same time, NinjaTrader needs to respect third-party developers' need to hide stuff. So I've run into several third-party developers who intentionally hide the output of their indicator so that people can't back engineer it. They're just fearful that somebody's going to back engineer it, and so they don't actually provide that data to other indicators or to a strategy. They hide it on purpose. So, although in my experience, that's never prevented anybody from back engineering your stuff anyway. So, but just my point is, NinjaTrader, does need to kind of protect their third-party developers and respect their wishes to hide data, if they need to. So, all right. Well, guys, let's kind of wrap it up with that. I think I don't see any more questions coming in. So, all right. Thanks for joining me again today. And Theo, I don't recognize you in the room, so welcome. And I hope you become a regular here. And if you are brand new, like again, I suggest you get started on that getting started page. And if you need some help, I'm here to help you out. And let me I'll show you how to get there. So go to help, and let's see, it's go to the online support. And this takes you to our Zendesk, which is our ticketing system. And so there's a whole bunch of Q&A questions on here that might help you out. So if you go to the support forum, you'll see there's different sections here. So this community help has a lot of FAQ. This is kind of, think of this as like the FAQ section, bunch of commonly asked questions. Here's some tips and tricks of people asking, how to set up certain conditions. And let's see, some of these are show you how to build a system. There we go. Yeah, this double crossover. So So this double crossover, I actually kind of have a tutorial of how to build this stochastic double crossover section. But you'll notice that it opened up 2 tabs. So when I clicked on support, it opened up 2 tabs. And so if you go to the support, go to contact us. Wait for that to load up. Right. So this is on our main website, sharkindicators.com. And you'll see there's book an appointment button here. So once you've kind of gone through some of the videos, some of the tutorial, at least I ask that you at least kind of go through the tutorial videos, so you at least have a good understanding of some of the basics of Bloodhound, and then to help you get going, you can book an appointment with me, and I'll help you out there. All right. And Charles, all right, so Charles is new here. Just started with your software a week ago, and had a great one-on-one. Oh, thanks, Charles. I appreciate it. Let's see, Fred. Fred, all right, just a quick question. How do I update Bloodhound to the latest version, already having installed Bloodhound previously? Using utilities import NinjaScript doesn't seem to work. Okay, well, here we did, there is an updater built into Bloodhound now. So first thing I like to do, because there's some quirks with NinjaTrader, and we're trying to get around those, but we can't really get around all of them. So here's kind of some the process I like to do. I like to go into my workspace, and I save it first. So if my workspace, if any of my charts on the workspace have Bloodhound on them, I like to save it first. So that way when I exit NinjaTrader, I don't have to save it. It's probably more superstition than reality, than needing to do that. And here is another thing, and actually we're going to take care of this here shortly. This is something that we're going to add to our updater. So let me go into the NinjaTrader, right? So I'm in the NinjaTrader 7 folder, and if you go into templates, all right, so this so the Bloodhound templates, these are where all your Bloodhound templates are saved in that folder, right? So if you downloaded a template off of our website, the Bloodhound templates go in here, and then the chart templates go in here if you download a chart template. So what I wanted to show you is that in the indicator section here, so look, you'll notice that there's no Bloodhound entry in here. What these are is the default settings that you can save for your indicators. So when you go into the indicator window, right? So I'm in the indicator window here. Let me pull this up. Right, so you know that when if you click on your indicator, you have your indicator up. Hold on a sec. Let me make this real small. Okay. Let me pull up the Bloodhound indicator. Right, so you know that if you right-click on any of these properties here, you can set a default for SI Bloodhound. So as soon as I click this, right, it just created this template file. So this in the indicator folder, right? So that's my default settings for Bloodhound. So what happens is if we add a new parameter in here, if we add any new setting within here, Bloodhound doesn't know how to handle any new settings that we may add, or if we change a setting, like this is a simple true false, but if we add something to this true false or other, NinjaTrader won't know how to handle it, because this default template file won't have that new setting. So what you may have to do is you may have to go in and delete this file for Bloodhound. And if you're using Raven, I would suggest going into the Strategies folder, and if you see an SI Raven in here, delete the one for SI Raven. So look for those two files first and delete them out of the indicator and strategy. And pretty soon we're going to change our updater to do this for you automatically. So let me exit out of that. And then you can go to Help, and you can check for updates. Just click on that. And so mine is up to date. If there is an update, a separate program is going to run, and you'll see it has a separate program. A program window will pop up, and you'll see a progress bar. It'll get halfway done, and then it's going to tell you that you'll have to exit NinjaTrader. So for the updater to finish, you will have to go in here and exit NinjaTrader, and since I already saved my workspaces ahead of time, I hit no and just exit NinjaTrader. The updater will finish, and then you can just restart NinjaTrader and you should be good to go. And so let's see, let me find that question. So Charles, try updating Bloodhound that way, and see what happens. That should be a smoother experience for you, because there's some other files that the updater removes as well that I didn't tell you about, because I don't really want you guys messing with those files. There's some other files that had to be modified by NinjaTrader, and so that's why you have to close NinjaTrader and rerun it. That forces NinjaTrader to update these other additional files that get updated. So sometimes those don't get updated by NinjaTrader automatically. So our updater program forces NinjaTrader to update those. So, and Charles, if you're still having trouble, submit a ticket to us. All right. So if you go to the if you go to support and go to contact, if you're still having trouble updating Bloodhound, then submit a ticket, and Jeremy and I will help you out, and if need be, we'll set up an appointment with you, and jump on your machine and get it fixed for you. All right, Fred. So Fred's asking, when do you think the revised updater will be available? Every time we try and give an ETA on when something's going to be done, there's always something unexpected comes along. So it's hard to say. So Jeremy, I can just tell you that Jeremy's got a couple other projects. He's trying to finish up the divergence indicator first, and then he might jump on the Fibonacci indicator next before he gets to the SI updater. So I'm not exactly sure what his priorities are, but I know he's trying to get the divergence indicator out first. That's got a pretty high priority. So So I'll just tell you that the updating the SI updater, you know, it's up there. The priority's up there, but it's hard to say when it'll be done. Yeah, Randy's making a good point. It's always a good practice to restart any program when you do an update. So, yeah, you know, I do IT. I work for the IT department at the local university, and it's amazing how many times restarting your computer or restarting the software fixes things. So, when in doubt, if things are getting really kind of funky with NinjaTrader, restart your computer, you know, unless of course you're in the middle of a trade. So, all right. So, Daryl says, I vote for continued push for divergence indicator. Yes. Yeah. So, Daryl, yeah, it's, yeah, Jeremy did have to take care of some other issues this week. So, but he's going to be back on divergence, maybe by Friday or definitely by next week. He'll be back on it. And so I think he told me this morning, that he's hoping to push out a beta next week. So don't hold me to it. You know, like I just said, something else could interfere with that, but we hope by next week, by the end of next week, we can push out a beta version. So, all right, guys, lots of good questions. And so just remember, if you got questions that conditions that could use the function nodes, I would appreciate you guys sending those in so I can do some real trader examples with those function nodes, right? And that's kind of what we'll do next week. So, okay, thank you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.